going to be reading from the chapter entitled Sun's Victory Over the Dark Mother. And this is on page 244 of The Great Cosmic Mother. So it reads, let me drink some water. Sumerian culture can be traced back to circa 5500 BC in the alluvial plains of Lower Mesopotamia. Sumerians wrote on clay tablets. Archaeologists have proclaimed that history begins at Sumer. For that reason only, the Sumerians wrote it all down. Their inscribed myths thus qualify as the world's oldest known literature. What does this Sumerian literature record? As Thompson says, the clay tablets reveal the remains of a revolution, a shift from the dominant female gods of the Neolithic village to the organizing and controlling male gods of the literate city. One of these transitional myths give us the story of a fabulous character who can fairly be called Enki the Prick. Enki was the water god, and the Sumerian word for water also meant semen. In a lavish ode to his indistinguishable phallus, Enki virtually floods the Sumerian plains with semen. Enki is a funny guy. He also inseminates all the Sumerian people, including his own daughters and their daughters. The ancient earth goddess Ninhursag can't take it any longer. Her daughter, Utu, also is inseminated by the new ebullient All-Father. Ninhursag removes Enki's semen from her daughter and turns it into plants, which Enki eats, of course, becoming pregnant with his own semen. He gets very sick. Only by crawling into Ninhursag's vagina with her help can he then give birth to 8 goddesses, all named for different parts of his body. This myth is profoundly ambiguous, as Thompson says. It is also grotesquely funny because it is a recording in one story, the mid-stride shift of worldview from matriarchy to patriarchy in ancient Sumer. Sumer began as a goddess-oriented agriculture village. It ended as a civilization, which grew not from a city but from a fortress, the fortified granary. Real life changes slowly, but in a myth like Enki and the world order, complex changes over time are compressed in a simultaneous image showing the proud, all-propagating potency and world-ordering power of the new male regimen, still entangled in and ultimately dependent upon the wisdom and physical capacity of the old order, the earth goddess, to get the job done. The job, of course, is an impossible one, a mythic delusion to turn the father into a mother. It could only be done in Sumer anyway, as a kind of slapstick comedy with Enki as all 3 stooges. But he learns. In later stories, the great goddess Inanna, queen of heaven and mother of 300,000 years of human time, must come humbly to Enki, petitioning him for a place in the new male order. There is nothing for her to do or be. Man has taken over everything. As Enki boasts, Enki perfected greatly that which is woman's task. Men had indeed co-opted all of women's craft and improved upon it, and as Enki demonstrated, he's trying hard to do the same with childbirth and motherhood. As Thompson notes, with increased militarization and urbanization through the new male world came a revealing change in the mythic character of the goddess. From an all-powerful and open great mother, she becomes a seductive and wily sex goddess. No doubt this is because men are writing the myths, but the mythic shift also reveals the change real women had to undergo. The goddess becomes eroticized for her life. The new male god is armed and arrogant and no longer in awe of her reproductive powers or her cultural creations. To survive, she must seduce and lure and petition him. But still, the humbled Inyana in this story gets nothing from Inky but an impatient brush off. He tells her she has lots to do. She can tend sheep, observe his wars, and twist thread. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, the hero kills the sacred bull of heaven, Inyana's bull. The bull symbolized Earth's fertility, the moon, so many things, the horns surmounting the breasts on the walls of Katal Huyuk, the crescent horn in the uplifted land of the Venus of Lassel. What does Gilgamesh do with the horns of the sacred bull of heaven? He hangs them up in this room like a hunting trophy, a decoration for his male clubhouse. In this act, the old conservative religion of the women is being mocked in a celebration of male ambition. The Gilgamesh epic dates from 1600 to 2000 BC. Thompson calls this 4,000-year-old story the great foundation of Western literature, for what we are witnessing here is to set the pattern for all Hebrew and Greek literature to come. This new individuating, mocking, and arrogantly alienating ego of Gilgamesh, established in defiance of the old religion of the goddess and the earth, becomes in Western religious and secular history the ego of man. Wow. I'm going to reread that. This new individuating, mocking, arrogantly alienated ego of Gilgamesh, established in defiance of the old religion of the goddess and the earth, becomes, in Western religious and secular history, the ego of man. Mocker of the past, builder of tomorrow, etc. This effort to displace the female seems to be the archetypal foundation for civilization, where mankind has been at it ever since, whether he is challenging Mother Nature in flying away from her in rockets or in changing her on Earth through genetic engineering. Man has not given up in the attempt to take away the mystery of life from the Great Mother and the conservative feminine religion. There were women who fought the patriarchy. Tribes of Amazons in Syria, Thrace, Macedonia, and Africa defended themselves from invasion and fought to preserve their matriarchal religion and culture against the onslaughts of the rising sun god. We know these warrior women through Greek myth mostly. One of their last battles was fought on the Greek mainland against Greek male soldiers. The Amazons lost, fighting to the death. Memorials to them were set up all over the Greek countryside, marking each place an Amazon had fallen in battle, and their valor, beauty, and strength were long depicted in Greek art. Even the male sun god warriors praised them as ferocious and fearless fighters. J.J. Bachafin in Myth, Religion, and Mother Right declared that the rise of Father Right began with the wars against the Amazon cultures. He also says that after the wars, the surviving Amazonian women settled down, built cities, engaged in agriculture. Their nomadic horse life was over, but they still accomplished great things. From the Nile banks, the shores of the Black Sea, from Central Asia to Italy to West Africa, Amazon names and deeds are interwoven with the historical founding of famous cities. Hera fought at Troy as leader of the Mysian women, warrior troops. She goes unmentioned by Homer in Bachofen's opinion because she was more beautiful and more interesting than Helen, the star of Troy. Because what we know of Amazons comes down to us as myth. We have been taught to doubt their actual existence, but myth records the real history of the ancient pre-literate world. Its accuracy is proven when real Troys are dug up at the legendary sites of legendary Troys. Ancient legends tell that the wild horse was first tamed and ridden by Amazons of old Libya, which is now Morocco. The moon goddess is therefore everywhere, connected with the horse, the white mare. This is where the nightmare comes from. Moroccan leather was originated by the Amazons, who fashioned it into tall, pliable, dark red boots. Julius Caesar, in his historical memoirs, speak respectfully of the great queen Semiramis, who ruled Syria and led its Amazon troops into battle. Caesar also notes that Amazons once ruled most of Asia. When Roman troops entered Europe, they were commonly confronted by tribes of both female and male warriors, led by great warrior queens like Boudica of the Britons and Valada of the Gauls. African Amazon warrior women were still alive and well in 19th century Dahomey, and an elite Amazon corps of 5,000 women was instrumental in winning the independence of African Malawi in 1964. It wasn't Amazon women alone who wanted to retain the ancient matriarchal cultures. These were men, too, with a living mother goddess consciousness, who did not voluntarily give up the practice of her ways. Death, rebirth, and ecstasy through her being, experienced in joyful, fearful, and orgiastic rites, are crucial to the psychic balance and health of men as of women. All legends indicate that the reciprocally grandiose, androgynous nature of female and male relationships in goddess cultures was split apart by force, the force of heavy patriarchal arms and ideology. Here is a Hebrew myth telling how God the Father separated the originally bisexual twins. God found the male upper waters and the female lower waters locked in a passionate embrace. Let one of you rise, he ordered, and the other fall. But they rose together. Whereupon God asked, why did you rise together? We are inseparable, they answered with one voice. Leave us to our love. God now stretched out his little finger and tore them apart. The upper he lifted up high, the lower he cast down. To punish their defiance, God would have singed them with fire. The divided waters then voiced their agony of loss by blindly rushing towards each other and flooding the mountaintops. But when the lower waters lapped at the very feet of God's throne, he shouted in anger and tramped her under his feet. And so the war god Yahweh came to power. When the official Genesis of the Hebrew Bible was written, the ancient goddess was described in negative abstractions: chaos, darkness, and the deep. Tahom, the mother of all, is biblically defined as mud, the swamp, some mindless beast of matter who must be kept under paranoid patriarchal control and always subject to the father's logos or word. Tahom, the abyss, the dark night, the lower waters, has always since crouched submissively in her deep abode like a huge beast, sending up springs to those who deserve them and nourishing the tree roots. Though she thus influences human fate, none may visit her recesses. The goddess creatrix that Yahweh displaced was a goddess of the moon, and so of fertility and water. Her fertility involved more than the protoplasmic multiplication. It involved the entire cosmic creation and all of life, as well as psychic rebirth, the energy of the mind, imagination. The women's cultures are portrayed in these myths as a chaotic commingling of the two sexes, of humans, animals, and vegetation in ecstatic, spiritual, poetic animism, which messy commingling delays and obstructs the establishment of patriarchal social order. As rain pouring down into the sea delays the appearance of dry land, under the ancient rule of water, such disorder and chaos prevailed that wise men avoid all mention of it. Tisks. So the female and male principles must first be decently separated and put in their places, as when the Egyptian father god Shu lifts the sky goddess Nut from her embrace with the earth god Jeb. When the Babylonian sun hero Marduk sliced Tiamat in two, he was really parting her from Apsu, god of the upper waters. Tiamat, the formidable Babylonian mother goddess, was the model for the Hebrew Tahom. Tiamat, the formidable Babylonian mother goddess, was the model for the Hebrew Tahomet. Tiamat was the mother of the deep who fashioned all things. She displayed herself as night, truth, and justice. Tihom, Mayat. Mayat, the Egyptian goddess of truth and justice. Tiamat gave birth to the gods. Then, in later patriarchal epic, the gods rebel against her, and she is finally conquered by the sun god hero Marduk, who had been promised supremacy over the other gods if he did so. He slays her in her form of the great whale dragon or cosmic serpent, and she then surrenders her own body as building material for the universe. Note that in the original matriarchal creation myths, the Great Mother always sacrifices her body herself voluntarily to create the world from her substance. In patriarchal myth, the basic idea is maintained, but the mother body is not actively but passively surrendered. The father god world is essentially created through male conquest and an act of matricide. This is what Elizabeth Gould Davis has to say about Tiamat. In southern myth, the creator goddess Tiamat appeared out of the waves of the Erythraean Sea, the Persian Gulf, as a fish woman and taught men the arts of life, to construct cities, to found temples, to compile laws. In short, instructed them in all things that tend to soften and humanize life. From that time, so universal were her instructions that nothing had to be added. Davis believes Tiamat may have been a matriarchal queen of the Thracian Anatolian remnant of the ancient lost civilization of Atlantis, that she might have sailed down the Euphrates River from Thrace or Anatolia, perhaps circa 9000 BC, in a ship whose figurehead was a mermaid-like creature of many ancient legends, half fish and half woman, because myth was both a historic record and a psychic gestalt of universal symbols. The line between historic literalism and mythic symbolic interpretation is often blurry, and that's what makes archaeological and linguistic evidence important. Most Near Eastern myths that have come down to us derive from a time when at least part of the matriarch's divine functions had been delegated to her male warrior consort. These myths date from 2500 to 1500 BC. The solar hero in all cultures corresponds with the establishment of patriarchal order, and order everywhere means the suppression and negation of the great mother religion. The Greek sun god Apollo represents purification and renewal through the male. The sun bringing light, life, and spring back to the world by killing the python serpent of the mother, represented as the dragon of darkness, now exclusively dark, chaotic, evil. These are our classic dragon stories. The serpent of chaos is originally and always a woman's body. As the great mother of chaos, of matter still uninformed, and undifferentiated, she holds the earth like an egg in the pure energy of her coils. She represents the time before the gods, before the establishment of patriarchal hierarchies and distinctions. As the dragon of matter, the undivided one, older than the individuation of forms, she also signified the common flesh and blood bond of the people. This is why the snake dragon everywhere is identified with the indigenous masters of the ground, the matrifocal peasantry, who are invaded, conquered, plundered, co-opted by the dragon slayers of the patriarchal history. In Indian myth, the Indo-European sky god, Indra, comes upon the goddess Danu and her son Verta, the two Dravidian serpent creators, or the great cow goddess and her calf. They are described as undivided, bisexual, unawakened, sunk in the deepest sleep, outstretched. Indra hurls his phallic lightning and decapitates them. This murder generates the act of creation, since in the Indo-European view, the dark serpentine Danu and Verta had withheld the waters in the mountain hollows and so hindered the world from coming into being. The Indo-European patriarchal world, that is. Tahom, Tiamat, Apsu, Danu, Verta were obviously names for the magnetic serpentine spirit of the earth and its underground waters. The bisexual power who was absolute mistress of all chaos before creation. His sacrifice then enables patriarchal creation, law and order to appear. It is the custom in India, before a single stone is laid in the foundation of a sacred building, for the local astrologer to determine the exact spot of ground which is situated above the head of the snake that supports the world. Construction rites began with an imitation of Indra smiting the serpent, Danu Verta, in her lair. A wooden peg is driven into this spot to securely peg down the serpent's head. It is said in the Rig Veda 2:12-1, if this snake should ever shake his head violently, it would shake the world to pieces. So with patriarchy, it is the death of the world snake that supports male world building. But patriarchy needs the serpent energy, which is a subterranean energy that powers all life. Everyone knows the serpent is not really dead, but repressed, and the paranoid patriarchal obsession with law and order is the necessary mechanism of this repression. This worldwide attack and conquest of the cosmic serpent is called in patriarchal story the victory over the waters, through which emerged stable forms and the organization of the world, that is, the male political world. The Rock of Jerusalem reached deep into the subterranean waters to home, it was said. The Jerusalem temple is situated directly above her, its holy rock containing the mouth of Tehom. Babylon was built above the gate of Apsu, the serpent waters before creation. Apsu, the other half of Tiamat. Everywhere, the mythic rite of building the holy male city on the conquered body of the mother serpent is enacted as the origin of patriarchy. Everywhere, this mythic rite of building the holy male city on the conquered body of the mother serpent is enacted as the origin of patriarchy. The sun-worshipping pharaohs of later Egypt slay the dragon Apophis. Apollo slays Gaia's python. The Greek hero Perseus slays the Amazonian Medusa, who is described as three-headed, the triple goddess, with snakes writhing from her three heads. St. George slays the dragon in England. Even St. Patrick must drive the snake from snakeless Ireland. And in Hebrew Genesis, the serpent is doomed by the war god Yahweh to be forever the enemy of the human race. To be crushed under our heels and to give back to us only poison. In Christian prophecy, in Revelation 12:21-1, the final extinction of the dragon is promised when a king Messiah kills the watery cosmic snake and then takes over the world, throne and unchallenged, and there was no more sea. This event is prefigured in Psalm 74:13. Thou breakest the heads of dragons in the waters. The consistency of all these myths is commensurate with their reality. To the ancients, the cosmic serpent, the spirit of earth and water, was everywhere known as the energy source of life, of healing and auricular powers, fertility, and maternal blessing. This energy spirit, with emerging patriarchy, was redefined as a dangerous enemy, to be reviled, defeated, destroyed. Then it was said by the new holy man that chaos has been ordered and the serpent force has been mastered, and what was to be the new source of world energy, slave labor, military force, the rule of the fist, threats of punishment and coercion by fire-breathing, guilt-mongering male priesthoods, in service to the god of war and world. In Babylon, the combat between the god hero Marduk and the great sea dragon Tiamat was ceremonially reenacted every new year. Marduk's victory was celebrated by the priests as an end to chaos and darkness. Marduk creates the cosmos again from the torn fragments of Tiamat's body, and he creates man from the blood of the demon Kingu, to whom Tiamat had entrusted the tablets of destiny. May he continue to conquer Tiamat. May he continue to conquer Tiamat and shorten her days, exclaimed the celebrants. The cosmic combat, the hero's victory, and the new creation were imagined to take place at the same moment every new year.